Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community.
Hello, everybody. This is Doug Benton, filling in for a gallivanting B.J. Williams this time around. Today we'll have a conversation with Bonny Christensen on her book, Woody Guthrie, Poet of the People. We'll check in with Susie Beasley and Shelley Ziegler-Hill, Ruby Soutier, Gary Rodriguez, and the always operatic Clyde Martin. All that is today on Read About It. Coming up first, Bonny Christensen.
The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It, with your host, B.J. Williams.
Here's Bonny Christensen talking about her book, Woody Guthrie, Poet of the People.
Bonny, what inspired you to write Woody Guthrie?
Well, there were a number of things. I grew up in Kentucky and West Virginia. I'd seen a lot of coal mining families and a lot of poverty. At the same time, as a school child, I was singing This Land Is Your Land, and I knew a lot of other Woody Guthrie songs, which at the time I didn't actually know that they were Woody Guthrie songs. And then I grew up and I became a book illustrator. And I was asked to illustrate The Grapes of Wrath for the Folio Society in London, which I thought was a real honor.
Very
so
much.
I got involved in the whole Dust Bowl and the migration west. And as I was working on that and looking at the Dorothea Lange photographs, I thought it would be appropriate if I used Woody, an image of Woody in one of the illustrations in that book. So I did that. And as I was looking at this picture of Woody, I thought maybe it would be really interesting to do a children's book that it would incorporate the history of the Dust Bowl and the migrants west and the life of Woody. And so I spoke to my agent in New York, and she said, that's a good idea, but it's going to be very difficult to tell for children such a story of a life that had so much tragedy in it. But we persevered.
Great.
Yeah.
So you both wrote and illustrated
That's
the book.
right. Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine that made it maybe 3 or 4 times as difficult as just doing one or the other.
Actually, in some ways, I think that one informs the other. So, because as I'm writing, the pictures are coming up in my head. And as I'm working on the pictures, a lot of times I'll find that some of the writing has to change. It's much more time consuming and you get much more nitpicky about it. I would wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and think, oh, I think something is wrong with this illustration. And I would go to the file at 2 o'clock in the morning and pull out the illustration and look at it and try to decide what I would change about it. So it did take a lot more time probably than if one person had done the writing and I had only done the illustrating.
Mm-hmm. So really what prompted you was a combination of both wanting to tell the story and to show the story.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Now, what medium did you use for these illustrations? They're absolutely beautiful.
Oh, thank you. My background is in woodcut, so I was looking for a medium that was an illustration technique that would really reflect the sense of a woodcut or a wood engraving. I really like the dense blacks, and I think the thing I like about them is that once you put the color on, that you get kind of a stained glass effect from the whole thing. So the technique I used for this book was very complicated, but I think hopefully it does give that stained glass sense to the illustrations.
And I think a bit of an old-fashioned look, so that when a child opens it up, it is a little bit like they're going back in time.
Yeah, that we were looking for that. I think the colors, we wanted to keep the colors really muted to look sort of like a hand-tinted photograph from that period. Yeah.
Well, and actually one of these pages, when you're talking about photographs, this one actually does look like somebody's old photo album.
Thank you. That's what we were going for. And I used for inspiration a lot of Dorothea Lange photographs and photographs from the period of time. And we wanted to show workers in all different areas and how they were affected by the union movement. So Actually, the editor and the art director came up with that idea, and I thought it was great.
So you were working very closely with them
Yes.
as you were putting all of this together.
That's right.
Now, did you do a great deal of research on Woody Guthrie?
I did, but most of it was library research. I read all the books that were written about him and all the books that were written by him, and I went to the Woody Guthrie archives in New York, but not until after I completed the book, which was a good thing because I think I would have stayed there for 3 years and I never would have finished the book. But I did do a lot of research, yes.
Well, I have talked with a lot of authors who do research, and they say sometimes the most painful thing about writing a book is all the stuff that you have to leave out.
Yes. No, and not only with me, I think that there was a story about when Woody made a large amount of money for the very first time, and it was quite a ways along in his career, and he came home and he had, I think, $2,000, and he'd gotten it in he got it in $1 bills, and he had it in his pockets, and he came home and he started just throwing all the money around, and I thought that was such a great story, and I really wanted to put it in the book, but there was no place. There was no place for it to go, so that was hard.
Did you find it difficult making it a story accessible for young people? I know talking about unions and all the politics and that sort of thing can be, at least most people think it's a little bit too complicated for kids.
Right. I give kids a lot of credit. I think if you explain things the right way to them, that they can understand it. I think that some of the tragedies that he experienced early in his life were the hardest things to explain in a way that wouldn't be so overwhelmingly sad that a child would say, this is too depressing, and put the book down, that we wanted them to quickly move past that and to see what he managed to accomplish later on in his life.
Well, I think you did a wonderful job of that, and
Thank you.
One of the other illustrations that I like so much, and really beautifully simple, but it almost makes you want to sing along, I think, with Woody, with the train just running not long down the track.
Yeah, I do like the simple ones too.
Yeah. Well, and still you have that feeling, that beautiful feeling of, as you said, stained glass. I think that is accomplished quite beautifully in all of that.
And we have the big sky. You know, I noticed out here you have the
really big sky.
Really big skies, yes.
Yes. Well, I think you have caught that aspect of Woody, because although he grew up in the part of the state that didn't have quite as big a sky as out here.
Oh.
He did move
it's like
out.
you have different geography.
Yes, Oklahoma very definitely has. But I think that this is a wonderful book, not just for adults, I mean for young people, but I think adults would enjoy this, particularly if they didn't know very much about Guthrie to begin with. They would get into it. Did you have a particular age group in mind?
We started out thinking maybe 6th grade to 9th grade, or 4th grade to 9th grade, and as we worked through the book, I think the editor started thinking this could go all the way to adult. And I've talked to a lot of people who bought the book for children friends, and then they'll say, oh, and then I had to go one for myself as well. So, yeah, I think that's great. It worked, and they appreciate it, too.
Well, I think adults probably get drawn in first simply by the illustrations.
Good.
Because they are so beautifully done, and then they will pick it up, I hope, and start reading a little bit about Woody as well.
I hope so.
Now, we have just a brief moment, but I noticed that there is a very interesting design with the story on one side. Did you have input on how the pages were put together?
Some. I have to give a lot of credit to the art director on this particular book. She came up with the border concept with the lyrics for "This Land Is Your Land," and she dictated a lot of what happened, but I think it was successful, so I'm happy.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Bonnie, for being with us.
Thank you, BJ. Thank you.
We've had with us today Bonnie Christensen, and she has been telling us about her beautiful book, Woody Guthrie, Poet of the People. You can find this book at your library and your favorite bookstore.
Thanks, BJ. Coming up next, Susie Beasley.
Ruby, tell us about this book, Not Guilty, by Patricia MacDonald.
Well, this is a suspense novel, and it's about a lady named Keely. And we learn in the very first part of the book that her husband, Richard, committed suicide 5 years ago, and their young 9-year-old son, Dylan, was the one that found his father dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Yes.
Well, it is now 5 years later. Keely is remarried to a man named Mark, who is a lawyer. She has a young 1-year-old daughter named Abby, and her son Dylan is now 14, and he is a typical moody adolescent boy. He's not real excited about having a stepfather, and so he kind of has some friction with Mark. And one evening, Keely takes her son Dylan over to a friend's house, and she drops him off, and then she goes shopping for an anniversary present for her husband, who stayed home to take care of the baby. When she gets home, there are all these ambulances and police cars and all these emergency vehicles at her home, and her husband, Mark, has drowned in the swimming pool of their home. And things are not exactly as they appear to be. For one thing, we learn as we progress in the story that Mark broke off an engagement with another woman named Maureen to marry Keely. And he had been a childhood friend of her first husband. And we now, furthermore, go on to discover that Maureen, his ex-fiancée, is now the district attorney.
So it's
and
kind of a
she
turnaround here.
decides that Dylan pushed his stepfather into the pool, and she is bound and determined to prove that and prosecute him to the full extent
So why
of
this
the law.
title, Not Guilty?
Well, it's Keely's belief in her son's innocence. He is not guilty, and she believes that he's not guilty at all. Not only did he not push his stepfather in the pool, he didn't even accidentally leave the door unlocked to where
any of those
his
things.
little half-sister could get close to the pool.
So this particular book is as Irish Johansson would say, is a roller coaster of the unexpected. You've got all these things going on.
It is, and
Okay.
it just kind of loops around
Okay.
and something else comes up. And
Well, we really appreciate you coming, Ruby, and sharing with us Not Guilty by Patricia MacDonald. This is a page-turner, mystery suspense, but more suspense. And it's available at your local library and perhaps your local bookstore. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, Ruby.
We'll be back for more book talk right after this.
We are more than 300 strong. We are diverse from all walks of life. We are musicians. We are teachers. We are computer experts and business leaders, each with the same goal, to meet the information needs of the people of Oklahoma County. We are the librarians of the Metropolitan Library System. How can we help you?
Welcome back. I brought with me 3 books today that I've been looking at recently that I think are kind of interesting. The first is by Ray Bradbury. Bradbury has almost gone beyond the idea of being a writer in America. He's kind of an institution in American letters now. His new book is a collection of short stories, some old and some published for the first time. It's called One More for the Road. It's not really a science fiction collection. If you think of Bradbury as being a science fiction or a fantasy writer, he's doing some different things in this one. These are stories of real people in real situations, real life situations. Many of them deal with their memory stories about times past, opportunities missed. There's kind of a nostalgic and even a little melancholy glow to the book, but they're good stories. Bradbury is still writing up to his potential. It's One More for the Road. The next book is actually a couple of science fiction novels, that have been republished in one volume. Early works by Arthur C. Clarke. Now, I think now that we are pretty safely out of the 20th century. It's time to start picking some of the bests. And for my money, Arthur C. Clarke is the best science fiction writer of the 20th century. These are two of his early books, The City and the Stars and The Sands of Mars. They are early works, and you can tell they are. They're not quite as visionary as some of his later works, but they're still a couple of very good stories. They're published by Warner Books in paperback, and I'm hoping that Warner is going to bring out more of Clarke's early works. This is only one of two of these double volumes that have come out so far. Finally, the last book is really designed more for children, although, yeah, it's one of those things that anybody can dip into and have some fun with. It's a special edition of Ripley's Believe It or Not, with some of the original cartoons drawn by Robert Ripley. The wildest things. Of course, I think everybody knows what Believe It or Not was all about now, but the book gives a little bit of background information on where the whole idea came from. So you'll see how Ripley's Believe It or Not got started. It was originally just sports, oddities in sports. And Ripley's newspaper publisher, came to him and said, hey, that's a good idea. Let's do more of that. So here comes Ripley's Believe It or Not, and you may not believe them all, but here they are. Anyway, those are three books that are coming up that I think you'll be interested in. And coming up next is Kids Corner.
Today we'd like to talk about The Princess Diaries. It's by Meg Cabot. You can find it in book and VHS form. Isn't that right, Shelley?
That's right. And I actually listened to the audio format of the book, which is read. There's a movie that I'm sure a lot of our viewers have seen called The Princess Diaries. Mm-hmm. And it is actually based on a book, which I'm sure a lot of people have not heard of, by Meg Cabot. And I listened to the audio version of the book, which is read by the star of the Disney movie, Anne Hathaway. So it was neat for me to listen to the book and then watch the film. So,
excellent. So did you listen first and then read it and then see the film, or?
I just listened to the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You haven't seen the film yet?
No, I saw the film.
Oh, you did?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
And let me tell you that the book is nothing like the film.
Sometimes they've changed it in production.
They've changed a lot of it. I did like the film, but it's nowhere near as good as the book. It's about, the story's about a girl named Mia Thermopolis. She's 15 years old, and she finds out that her father is actually the Prince of Genovia, which is a fictitious country in Europe, and she is the heir to the throne. So what a dilemma for a young girl.
And how old is?
She's 15.
15.
So, she's going through all these other changes in her life, puberty, which is, awful.
Boyfriends and new schools.
Exactly. And then she finds out that she's this princess, and she has all these duties to do. And, well, she doesn't want to be the princess, which is kind of odd because you would think most young girls say, oh, I'm the princess, oh, how exciting. But she's just the opposite. She hates the idea of it.
She's kind of shy?
Yes, she's very shy and awkward, yeah.
Oh.
So what happens is that her grandmother, who she calls Grandmère, and who was played by Julie Andrews in the film, comes over from Genovia and gives her princess lessons. Ooh. And it's such an entertaining book because it's written in a diary format. So it's like kind of each day, what I did today. And it's so funny. And there's a lot of pop cultural references, which I think a lot of young viewers will really like. And it makes it very modern day and amusing.
Oh, it sounds really fun, and I'm sure any of us would like to put ourselves in that situation.
Oh, yeah. So, I have no problem with that. But there's actually 5 books in this series. The second one is called Princess in the Spotlight. And the third one has not come out yet. I think it's coming out in March. It's called Princess in Love. So I'm sure that a lot of our viewers don't know this, about that there are so many books. And there's actually a sequel of the movie coming out called Princess in the Spotlight.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
We are really lucky because we do have the audio tapes, we do have the books.
We have the VHS.
And the VHS. We hope that you'll come to your local library, your favorite bookstore, and look for The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot.
Thanks, Shelley. Now let's take a quick look at the New York Times bestseller list. We'll start with the fiction bestsellers. 10th place this week is The Golden One by Elizabeth Peters. Number 9, Hope Through Heart Songs, written and illustrated by Maddie J.T. Stepanek. Body of Lies by Iris Johansson. Number 7, Atonement by Ian McEwan. Number 6, Sea Glass by Anita Shreve. Number 5, The Summons by John Grisham. Number 4, Second Chance by James Patterson and Andrew Gross. Number 3, Three Fates by Nora Roberts. Number 2, Everything's Eventual by Stephen King. And number 1, The Nanny Diaries by Emma McLaughlin and Nicola Krauss. On the nonfiction side, number 10 is Bias by Bernard Goldberg. Number 9 is Driver Number 8 by Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Jade Gers. Number 8, Still Woman Enough by Loretta Lynn and Patsy Bale Cox. Number 7, Blinded by the Right by David Brock. Number 6, Report from Ground Zero by Dennis Smith. Number 5, A Song Flung Up to Heaven by Maya Angelou. Number 4, Stupid White Men by Michael Moore. Number 3, Night, My Story by Bob Knight and Bob Hamill. Number 2, A Mind at a Time by Mel Levine. And number 1, Lucky Man by Michael J. Fox. On the children's bestseller list, number 10 is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling. Number 9, The Hostel Hospital by Lemony Snicket. Number 8, The Wide Window by Lemony Snicket. Number 7, The Miserable Mill by Lemony Snicket. And number 6, Junie B., First Grader at Last by Barbara Park. Number 5, The Reptile Room by Lemony Snicket. Number 4, Emeralds, There's a Chef in My Soup by Emerald Lagasse. Number 3, The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket. Number 2, Princess in Love by Meg Cabot. And number 1, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling. Now, let's go to Clyde Martin and some goofy guy he's talking to.
Thank you, BJ. I'm here with Doug Benton, and Doug, you have a book called Rocks of Ages by Stephen Jay Gould.
Yeah, it's a little unusual subject for me. Stephen Jay Gould is a science writer. He's also a scientist and a professor, but he's been writing a column in Natural History magazine for Lord knows how many years, 20 years or so. And this little book is not based on his writings for his column. It's something new. And what he's doing in this, and this is a new paperback edition, it's been out for a couple of years. What he's addressing in here is the war, and I'll put that in verbal quotation marks, between science and religion. And he claims there really shouldn't be one. If there's a war, it's because religious people don't understand science very well, and scientists don't understand religion. And he himself, although, as I say, he is a scientist, well, this is what he writes about it. He says, the subject of religion has always fascinated me beyond almost all other things, with few exceptions like evolution, paleontology, and baseball. Well, baseball doesn't figure in this very much, but evolution and paleontology do. Those are Gould's main fields of interest.
It sounds like something about the Scopes trial.
The Scopes trial is very much in the center of the book. It's at the heart of the book. Gould's point is that science looks at the factuality of physical existence. Religion looks at metaphysical subjects, subjects of morality, and one doesn't have anything to do with the other. But his section on the Scopes trial was particularly interesting to me. It's very easy to read, and it's a very good explanation about what the trial was really all about. My understanding was based on the play Inherit the Wind, which took great liberties, apparently. Yes. He explains that the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, actually pushed Scopes in this thing, and they wanted him to lose. They wanted him to lose in court, because then if they could appeal, they could challenge the constitutionality of Tennessee's law that you could not teach evolution in the schools, which is what Scopes had done, and he was absolutely guilty of it. I mean, he did teach evolution in the schools. But I didn't realize that, and I didn't know that they slapped their heads in agony when Clarence Darrow said he wanted to be on the defense team. They didn't want a good lawyer. They wanted a local lawyer. So it was a fascinating part of the book.
Well, it makes good drama, the way we have it anyway. Well, thank you very much, Doug.
You're welcome.
Rocks of Ages.
If you spend 15 minutes a day reading to a child, you're doing more than reading. You're building a bond that lasts a lifetime. Hi, I'm Penny McCaleb, Chairman of your Metropolitan Library Commission, and I urge you to read to your children. Not only will they learn to love reading, they will also become better students. Our children's librarians will be happy to help you select just the right book. The next time your child hands you a book, take the time to read. You'll both be glad you did.
Coming up next, Gary Rodriguez.
Gary, what have you brought for us tonight?
This is a pretty interesting book. Did you know that Canadians were drafted and fought for the United States Army in the Vietnam War?
I had no idea. I thought this was where you went to get away from it.
Well, unfortunately, this is a story. It's called There It Is, a Canadian in the Vietnam War by Les D. Brown. And it's a story about a guy that his family moved from Canada when he was about 8 years old. They moved to California. His dad had a business and this and that and the other. And he was kind of bumming around and went to college and just decided that didn't what he wanted to do. And so he said, well, I'm safe from the draft. I don't have to worry about this. This was the 60s, you know, and I don't have to worry about it. Surprise, you're a permanent resident. You're just as eligible for the draft as anybody. And so he was shocked, you know, so they took him to the induction center, and all the while he's thinking, oh, well, they'll put me in something that's non-combative because, you know, I'm Canadian, you know. Well, didn't work out that way. He got, of course, stuck in an infantry group. And he says, wow, you know, this is going from bad to worse. So as he kept going along, you know, he kept trying to tell everybody, hey, you know, I'm a Canadian. And they all kind of looked at him and said, so what? So it's a really neat story of someone in the 60s, naive about how the whole thing works. He just kind of cruising along, having a good time, and reality jumps up and kind of bites him, you know. And so he goes out in the bush, and he's a good soldier. He was a minesweeper. He didn't appreciate that because he was tall and lanky, and the guy next to him was short. So, well, here, you get the grenade launcher, and hey, tall guy, you get the other one. So he kept getting stuck with the bad stuff. And as things kept going on, it really bothered him. And he finally, after 9 months, he goes, hey, I'm tired of this. I'm going to take conscientious objector. And he opened up a whole new world of pain and anguish. So.
Well, actually, there was an incident that sort of triggered that desire to be a CO, wasn't it?
Yeah, he ended up coming face to face with Viet Cong on a patrol. And it was, you know, kind of like the old John Wayne, whoever gets the gun off first. They both surprised each other. So he pulls his gun up and pulls the trigger, it goes click and jams, and he's sitting there fighting with it, and another guy ended up shooting at him. But that was it. He says, hey, it's getting close, it's getting personal, I'm going to get killed out here, I'm ready to quit. So he goes before a sergeant, he got to reading there was a Supreme Court decision that says you could declare yourself a conscientious objector. So he said, that's what I want to do. And he walked in, told the sergeant that, and after a whole lot of shouting and yelling, they said, fine, you don't have your gun, but you're going to run bunker duty. So, and it tells the hassle he got out of it. And even when he come back to the States, you know, and finished out the rest of his term, a lot of times you don't hear about those stories. Mm-hmm. This kind of tells about some of the dirty details he was done, and he didn't care, you know, his long hair and all that good stuff. And so it's really a good book of a view of what happened coming of age, if you will, some of these guys in Vietnam. It's a really well-written book.
Yeah, with an interesting slant, I would think.
Yes, it is. It's an interesting slant, the Canadian side of it.
Okay, so, and the title and author again?
The title is There It Is, A Canadian in the Vietnam War by Les D. Brown.
Thank you, Gary. And you can find this book at your library and your favorite bookstore.
Thanks for being with us this week, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, you can check out all kinds of library things by going to our website, which is metrolibrary.org. On the internet, you can check the catalog, see what we've got there, reserve some books, find out what programs are coming up, check on library locations and our operating hours, all kinds of things. And we've got lots of links to take you to other places as well. So be sure to look at our website, www.metrolibrary.org, and we will be back on your television next time. Please join us again, and we'll see you again soon.
Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community.